Situation right now in regards to the agricultural system. I think when I chatted to you before, Seth, you were saying that the practices, the farming practices, were slightly behind what they are in the UK. Can you just give us an overview of what it's like agriculturally in Barbados, and what are the pathways for innovation so that the farming community can prosper from their produce?
Yeah, well, I mean, Justin probably knows a little better than me, but from my own personal experience, there isn't as much large-scale farming. So there would be a lot of smaller farmers that then supply maybe the supermarkets or even local communities. And the challenge is trying to actually be more independent and provide locally rather than importing, because that obviously helps the economy, and more importantly you get fresher food rather than food that's picked too early, it's been on a boat and then sits on the shelves for a long time. And obviously the transportation does have added costs, so Justin will probably be able to add to that.
Because for right now a lot of our food is imported, which makes it very expensive. It also doesn't make it as fresh, which is what Seth had just mentioned. We do have some large farms, but a lot of the farms are small. So there might be small farmers that would then sell to the supermarkets. Then we do have some larger ones which they would go to the larger supermarkets and they might have a fair set of production, but at the end of the day, a lot of the fruits and vegetables which are not locally grown are imported. So our import bill is, I would say, ridiculously high, and I think is unnecessarily so. I think now we have a lot of smaller farmers and some people are actually coming out into the area of hydroponics to kind of, I guess, make it more efficient and try to use like less land space in order to be able to grow. We've also had the use of greenhouses, but I think originally the use of greenhouses in Barbados was it was an incorrect model in that greenhouses usually tend to make the space a lot hotter, and in Barbados we tend to have a lot of heat, so greenhouses are usually better for environments in like in the UK where it's colder, and you actually want to like
increase the heat,
humidity and heat here. Pardon?
You want to increase the heat.
So then the heat here becomes very hot. So what ideally should be done here is that we should be using shade houses, which it provides shade, but it doesn't provide the plastic or the glass, which then would create those greenhouse gases within the actual greenhouse itself, which is the increased humidity. It would allow for the humidity to be passed out, and you'd be able to get sunlight, but you wouldn't necessarily get the same level of heat.
Could I just ask, Justin, why, I'm just curious, why do you, I mean, I know in the UK, we import over 50% of our food. Whilst I was in Bahrain living out there for a couple of years, they import almost all of their food. But in regards, and that's because the the climate and the land in the Middle East isn't as fertile. Why does the Caribbean import so much of the food? Is it because the land isn't good, or is it just down to the farming practices, or is it just demand, customer behavior?
Well, I think what I could say in Barbados, it started because we were sugarcane focused.
Mm-hmm.
So our main crop was sugarcane for a number of years. And so all the land that would have been used for culture would have been either cane mostly, or then some people would have actually had farms. Over the years, that has dwindled. So in terms of like sugarcane and stuff, we've had less and less demand for that, and we've closed a number of factories as well. So sugarcane and rum were our main components. Now that we've closed down a number of these sugar factories and we don't harvest as much cane as we used to, we have some land spaces which, in my mind, are not being used or utilized efficiently. So they're just there, but they're not being used in terms of actually growing like crops that we can use on the island. So pineapples we import to a large degree. Things like oranges, apples. There's some other vegetables that we import quite a bit of. Mushrooms are 100% import. Sometimes we import bananas from our neighboring islands. So, for example, St. Vincent, they do a lot of bananas and stuff like that. So some of it would come from the US, Canada, UK, and in the Caribbean. I think sometimes we end up focusing more on the UK and US markets. And I think a lot of that is from demand more than anything else. I think if we spent more time focusing on trying to grow a lot of our own food, our import bill would be a lot cheaper, so which means that we would save a lot of money and it would be a lot fresher, because at the end of the day, when you think about it, 2 weeks worth of transportation between harvest and your actual supermarket, or when you actually put it in your home. By the time you actually get to use it, your life expectancy for the produce has been cut in half already.
Yeah.
So you end up spending a lot more money for something that you have a lot less use of, which to me is bad economics.
And I guess you sacrifice the food, the nutrients, the minerals from that food, so it becomes almost void eating it.
Exactly. So I think a few years ago, like one of our friends, he had started doing his own garden, and that kind of got us on the whole bandwagon of it. Like why should we not do this as well? Why should we not start growing some of our own stuff? And then it led us to looking at more things regarding the environment, sustainability, clean energy, and stuff like that. So, it all started there.
Is there any support? If you were a resident there and you wanted to have, I don't know, in the UK we have allotments, but if you had some farming space and you needed help to get machinery, get some workers in, is there support from the government from that, or initiatives?
I think, well, when you can apply for a farmer's license, and from farmer's license that gives you some incentives. So you get some concessions and stuff like that from the government in terms of some of the things that you buy farming. There are some limitations as well, unfortunately, when it comes to like obtaining seeds and stuff like that. You have to get a phytosanitary certificate to import seeds. The problem is that sometimes it's either challenging to obtain, or the list of seeds available that you can get without having to apply for the certificate or make an official request sometimes can be a bit small. So then it limits the amount of things that you can buy in terms of seeds that you can buy to grow locally and stuff like that. There have been some programs years back allow persons that didn't have farms that were interested in having a farm to be able to lease land relatively inexpensively and actually start to grow. But honestly, I don't think it's picked up the way that was expected. I don't know if years or months, I should say, if persons might be a lot more interested in it, because the issue with Barbados is heat and you need water, and water can be expensive. So if you have commercial water, then it's okay. But if you have to use like residential water, it could be very cost prohibitive.
See.